not exactly hidden. Stop! Airfarce finishes the song as he outright dances through the sheets of rain, at times perfectly matching the fall of the droplets and almost always playing with a signal baffler that's infuriating the other hunters, enough that a few of them out themselves as Axiom adepts who use sound-based techniques as they scream in rage and frustration. "Fireworks time yet?" the Hat asks, and Mr. T checks a small data slate and shakes his head. "The scan of our guests is taking a little longer than expected. We may need up to 10 minutes before these two can be teleported out and we can start tossing the toys," Mr. T says. "How much time can you give us, Bravo was it?" Morg Arkin asks. "Rico Bravo's the name, but you can call me Airfarce, everyone does. And how much time do you need?" Airfarce asks, tilting his glasses down as a second song about free birds starts slowly playing. It seems something that's really not his speed and style. "How much can you give us?" Magi asks, and Airfarce outright laughs. "Forever is a very long time, little lady. That, and I don't think we've got the food or water supplies to last that long, not to mention a distinct lack of bathrooms and beds," Airfarce says as he casually dodges something slamming through the air and leaving behind a wake. He follows that wake for a bit and shifts away from several laser bursts. "They're lighting up the sky. I think they're tired of your shit, buddy," Mr. T says. Kids these days. No respect for the rules of the road," Airfarce says in a disappointed tone, and the Hat chuckles as he reclines in his seat a little more and pushes his bowler hat down over his eyes. "Right, well, it's not like anything's gonna hit us. So, wake me when it's time to start shooting back," he says, throwing his huge arms behind his seat and seemingly falling asleep instantly. "Is this really the time for that?" Magikemka asks, as the air van dives straight down and everyone starts rising out of their seats. Airfarce?" Morg Arkin asks. "Yeah?" he responds, turning around and shifting his glasses a bit. His head is outright knocking against the roof of the van at this point. "Isn't this a bit much?" "What? Not at all. This is easy. Trust me. You haven't been on a real ride yet, although this could end up as a half-decent one sooner or later," Airfarce explains before he levels out the air van and everyone hits their seats again. The Hat gives a slight snort but otherwise is still asleep. "Playing with the water?" Mr. T asks as Morgarkun and Magikemka look out the windows and see that they're maybe 2 feet above sea level at this point. "Well, you work with the environment you're in, not the one you want, you know," Airfarce remarks before smirking. "Does anyone know if there's a place around here where the water is spat upwards or something? Maybe some really aggressive big wildlife? Both would be great too." No. "No, you don't know, or no, there isn't any?" Airfarce asks. "There isn't any. Lil Batulelb is a vacation planet for a reason. There's nothing that wild around here," Morg Arkin states, and Airfarce sighs. "Have to make my own fun then," he says, before flicking over the protective covering of a small panel and inputting a few commands. Then he presses a big button. A pulse of energy erupts from the front of the air van and impacts the water, and he shifts the van to the side and uses the now reoriented underside to launch himself in a massively different direction, and the water erupts behind them as his shot had apparently excited a great number of their pursuers, even as Airfarce lets off a face-splitting yawn. "There is no way you're actually bored doing this," Morgarkin states, and he chuckles. "How close are we to signal baffling?" Airfarce asks as he veers away from more shots with ease. 80%, Mr. T states calmly. 81 now. "Cool, that means we can start kicking off some real fun," Airfarce says, taking a suddenly wide banking sweep to both dodge numerous attacks and starting to circle around the pursuers and moving in a circle spiraling upwards. The occasional jolt further and further up as they dodge more blasts and then leave the rainstorm entirely. "Percent?" Air Farce asks after they clear the clouds. 85. Cool. Time to really grab attention, he says, suddenly shifting the momentum of the air van and moving backwards and right up to the swarm that suddenly backs off a little as he charges them. Then he hits the brakes and banks the vehicle to the side and opens the door. Hey! He shouts into a megaphone he pulled out of somewhere. Are you trying to bore me to tears? Fucking hit the accelerators already. If you're going to chase someone, you need to move faster than a paraplegic rock. He tosses the megaphone towards Morgarkun, and Magikemka and Mr. T rolls down the window as the hat starts outright chuckling in amusement. Hey, 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 who's got a fleet of vehicles and not a damn prayer of catching so much as a dirty look? Morgarkun shouts out before passing the megaphone to Magikemka, who simply blows a raspberry into the receiver and then laughs as she turns it off and sets it down. Air Farce laughs as well and slams the door as the window is rolled up and they dive down into the storm again. Fun time? The hat asks. Just about, Mr. T says. We jumped to 92%. Time to limber up then, the hat says, rolling his massive shoulders and swaying his head from side to side with an accompaniment of pops and cracks. The entire air van suddenly weaves to the side around a barrage of lasers and sways back and forth around numerous, slower and far more deadly plasma blasts. Magikemka lets out a sound of amazement as she watches a massive ball of thermally agitated gases be eaten up by the rain until it fades away entirely. Pretty cool, hun? Air Farce asks, looking back at them again. There's no cooler. Oh yes, there is. You should see an entire celestial body collapse into a temporary black hole, implosion and then explosion one after the other. Now that is cool, Air Farce says. What would that even look like? Morg Arkin asks, and the hat pulls out his communicator and brings up a video file. Here, watch and be enlightened, the hat says, and Morg Arkin quickly gives the video his full attention as an icy moon backlit by a purple gas giant suddenly collapses in on itself as if it just collided with a black hole. How did you get to watch this? Tracking rogue black holes is insanely difficult, Magikemka asks as she watches over Morgarkun's shoulder. Rogue nothing. It was deliberately created by a friend of ours, Ivan Grace. He signed up with the Undaunted Research Department. There was a huge mess of a hassle when a clone of his started messing with him during a healing coma and then went completely insane. Long story short, the entire Chainbreaker crew was needed to solve the problem, and that moon you're seeing get reduced to component atoms is where Ivan was held when he was being hardcore screwed over. Still, he came out of it with some pretty scary Axiom abilities and now has a job with us, So he's going to be drowning in guilt for a long time after what his clone did, Mr. T notes. That depends on how much his shrink can get through to him. The hat remarks. The man has picked up a lot of guilt for what happened. I'm sorry. What the hell happened? Morg Arkan asks, before a chime goes off from Mr. T's data slate. What happened is that the scan is complete. You two get out of here and we will lead these idiots further and further away from you as you try and set up your forest. Air Farce says with a grin, and Mr. T throws him a thumbs up. Air Farce then starts fiddling with the communication functions on Van. Hey gorgeous, are you set up? Ready and waiting. We've been in position for 5 minutes now. Good. We just got the scans done, so expect a pair of apuks soon, Air Farce says before turning back to the kids. All right, you two, time for you to go. We'll finish up our stories after we've gotten some kind of stability. You're teleporting in 5 seconds. Hold on to your butts, you two. You don't want something to be left behind in the teleport now, do you? Mr. T says. It doesn't work like that, Magikemka protests. Then she turns to Morgarkun. Does it work like that? I don't think so. He answers, and she looks a little scared before they're both suddenly pulled away, and then a pair of holograms with strange pulsing patterns inside them take their places. All right, distractions in place. Time for you two to have your fun. Airfarce says as Mr. T and the Hat chuckle as they each prime a large device. Fire at will. Just remember, we want attention, not corpses. Sounds good. The Hat notes as he opens his door and gives his device an extra twist before hurling it hard into the rain. He then slams the door, and there's a massive sound like a gigantic guitar string. A huge ring of white energy spins out in a diagonal line, and Mr. T clucks his tongue. You should have controlled the spin a bit better, Mr. T notes. Well, you've got the next one. Show me how it's done then, the Hat says, and Mr. T opens the door on his side and lets fly with his own bomb. The concussion wave is vertical, and the Hat outright cackles as he sees this. Morg Arkun and Magikemka are suddenly in another van that's not moving at all. It's considerably larger than the last one, with a pair of smiling Canadors in there with them. One with night black fur that has bright yellow highlights, and the other opulent white and bright glossy green. Well, hello there, you two. So nice of you to drop in, the dark Canador states. Are one of you Onyx? Morg Arkun asks. That's me, kiddo. This is my little girl, Jade. We've been waiting in the forest for you for a few minutes now. I'm guessing the holdup is due to some kind of difficulty? Apparently, the scanner was slower than expected, Morg replies. Oh, that's all. That's a relief. Let me tell you, having that reckless Rico for a husband is some serious heart-stopping concern. He means well, he means very well, but his love for speed and insane maneuvers is terrifying. He seems to be having fun, Morg Arkun says nicely. Oh, he lives for fun, which is what makes it so surprising that he works well in a team. Still, don't you have something to do? Yes, I do. Excuse me, ma'am. I need to see if Lilb Tulelb is ready for something big and bad to show up, Morg says in a joking tone, and Jade giggles a bit. Are all Apuk as dramatic as you? Dramatic! I'll show you dramatic, Morg says around a grin as he poses, and Jade giggles all the harder. You certainly have. Now get to it, young man, Onyx tells him, and he opens the door before looking up. They're underneath a massive mushroom that's actually keeping the rain off. He hops out and then turns around. Do you want to come with me? Or do you want to stay in the van? He asks Magikemka, who hurries out after him. Well, that answers that, he says. Thank you both for your help, ladies. Our pleasure, young man, Onyx replies, and he nods while he pulls out his sample case. He walks up to the base of the mushroom and kneels down where its mycelium grips into the earth, and he puts a hand on it. It's unfamiliar, very unfamiliar. His first step is to see if it accepts the energies of the dark forest. It does, but it doesn't keep it. So the mystery is how to make it stay as part of the dark forest. He muses for a moment and then nods to himself as he pulls out a small mushroom sample and lays it against the fungal equivalent of a root. He then stokes the memory of power in the sample and encourages it to grow into the mushroom and become part of it. It does, and simultaneously does not. He had intended for his introduced sample to become part of a greater hybrid, not a parasite in a larger organism. He says as he puts his palms on the trunk of the gigantic mushroom and focuses. His fingers nearly sink into the pliable fungus flesh, and he closes his eyes as he tries to get a feel for just how different this life is from the life back home. Confirmed. We have two blazingly bright signatures in the mushroom forest that just exited an air van with two Canador scale figures inside it. It's them. They bluffed everyone and... Ack! Jessier explains before dropping the controller before it detonates. We've been hacked. Someone else knows. You heard the lady. Everyone into our truck, go, 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 Greta calls out, and everyone moves. The driver throws out the small branch she's smoking and closes her window as everyone piles in. The hell? The rabbis demands in shock. Mushroom forest 10 minutes ago. We found them, but we're hacked. We got a race to win, Greta explains, and the truck takes off in a heartbeat.